Hey, how you guys doing? It's producer from Brothers Comics. Welcome to What We Missed in Wrestling, our recap podcast from the early 90s at this point in time about some pay-per-views that we missed during the world of professional wrestling. On the line, at least currently right now, is Brother Beavis. What's happening, man?
Hey, what's up?
Summer of 91, couple of years into college at this point. I know I was not watching no wrestling when I was coming home. How about you?
No, I think this is probably like there was some stuff like leading up to here that I probably vaguely recommend or recognize, but actually I would have probably known more of like the WWF that's coming because Flair was
Yeah.
there. So I've definitely seen like some of that and the big gold belt showed up. But we're just like this is
Yeah.
right on that transition period where WCW is no longer what we remembered as WCW. And
Yeah.
WWF is trying to figure out how to have Hogan and Flair in the same place, but actually pretend like they're not. So
Yeah, that's weird too. Yeah, I mean, hello, fellow kids. Okay, so Flair leaving WCW to go to WWF would have been a viral moment. I don't tech. There would have been millions of texts and tweets and all those types of things because it was a monumental moment where you have the not the biggest star in wrestling, but the biggest wrestler
it,
that would be known for wrestling in wrestling to
and
wind up
every one of those tweets and
going up New
texts would
York.
have been accompanied by "Shut up, you're lying. That didn't happen." Some
Stop
variation
playing. Why are
thereof,
you
right?
playing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Was it
exactly.
April 1st?
So
What?
it was a big deal, but that'll be the pay-per-view after this. This is really that point leading up to it. So we're gonna jump into a couple of the bits about this. If you're on YouTube, you can kind of follow along a little bit. Let's see. Let's see if this works. We're back on StreamYard, y'all. All right, so let's look at the Wikipedia facts. We'll look at the Great American Bash 1991 first. If you see the poster there, you see part of the problem. It is the legend versus the legacy. It's supposed to be Flair and Luger in a cage for the World Heavyweight Championship. Posters were printed, flyers were posted, things were advertised, but this is not the card that we are going to get, and it's a huge deal. July 14th, 1991, Baltimore, Maryland, at the Baltimore Arena. Is the Baltimore Arena still there?
I don't think so. Or if it is, it for a while it was the Royal Farms Arena, and now it's something I don't know. So
Okay.
it's there's I think there's I don't know if it's the same facility that's changed hands or there's something essentially in the same area. So I think it's completely gone, but it's definitely not the Baltimore Arena anymore.
Is it in the hood?
No, well, kinda. I
No.
mean, it's downtown, and ninety
Yeah.
percent of downtown is the hood, but yeah.
Okay. Oh, noted. So a little over 9,000 people in attendance, a very papered crowd, if you believe what people say. 11 total matches. Our commentators, Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone. And our backstage announcer is not Missy High at this time, after all the controversy about her being in the locker room and all of that. We failed to mention that that was a Sam White schism, RIP. Like that controversy of ladies being in the
Mm.
locker room came from the Bengals
I thought it
and a
came from
late.
the Patriots, is what I was reading.
Oh, really? I thought it was Sam White's that threw that lady out of, or she was trying to get into the locker room at Riverfront,
He
and then
just
that's
told
where it
her that
came
she
from.
wasn't in Cleveland, that she was in Cincinnati.
Come on. Why are you playing? So yeah, it was. I thought that was that, but regardless. And then our now backstage announcer is a very young, very Cupid doll looking Eric Bischoff. I mean, quite the handsome young man here, fresh off of his stint out of coming out of the AWA. And now the backstage announcer here for WCW. He will become an important figure later on. So
Spoiler
yeah,
alert.
just yeah, spoiler alert. It's gonna take a couple of years.
I do have to say,
SummerSlam,
I think the strength of the pay per view, you had it on the slide, was Jim Ross and Tony Schiavone. Like
yeah,
Tony as kind of the kind of straight man for the
mm,
play. I guess he was the color guy for Jim Ross's play by play. They both
right,
treated very seriously.
very
This
seriously.
is Jim Ross is trying to find. every opportunity to actually bring up actual sports.
Yeah.
But no, they were by far the strength of this show, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And
This may be
it's,
Tony at his best. Like,
well, I agree. Yeah, well, Nitro Tony wasn't that bad as opposed to current Tony. And here we'll get through this here in a second. But yeah, this is not the strength of WCW at this point for a lot of ways. And not because of lack of talent, as you'll see,
oof.
because a lot of Hall of Famers are going to appear on this freaking card. And but they couldn't draw any kind of money or crowds at this point in time in their careers. All right, let's just move it forward. WWF is SummerSlam 1991, August 26th, Madison Square Garden, over 20,000 in attendance. Vince loves a tagline, a match made in heaven. Or, excuse me, yeah, a match made in heaven and a match made in hell,
And
So,
hell.
yeah, that's that Vince voice. And so, this is the wedding of Miss Elizabeth and Randy Savage, who are already married, kayfabed. Uh, but this is, and that's going to be at the end of the pay per view, like at the end. They do it at the end, and the match made in hell is the Ultimate Warrior and Hulk Hogan, and a handicap match against Sergeant Slaughter, fresh off of his loss of the WWF title to Hogan. General Adnan, R.I.P., and versus General Colonel Mustafa, which is the Iron Sheik, R.I.P.
With special guest referee
Oh yeah, with guest referee, yes, Sid Justice, not
Sid
Sid Vicious.
Justice.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about him too in a little bit. So 8 total matches in this SummerSlam. Gorilla Monsoon, Bobby Heenan, and awful Rowdy Piper on
Oh,
commentary. Yeah, brother. Uh, if anything, this whole series has taught me is I don't get it about Rowdy Piper. I don't get it. The promos are, I, his wrestling air quotation marks is awful too. Like I
so
do
we've been
not get it.
completely subjected to babyface Piper and some of his
Mm,
trash matches. Like the only thing you could defend would be heel Piper promo, but at the
yeah,
same time, it's just complete like gibberish. Like it's just coke fueled gibberish.
yes, it's loaded. Bobby Heenan is definitely the best of all of this here.
Oh
And we'll get to that. All right, so we're gonna take a couple of detours here.
yeah.
So here's the problem, and we're gonna go forward and backwards at the same time because these two pay-per-views are going to be where the backstage stuff is by far more important than what's actually happening in the ring. Okay, we'll get to like WCW and we'll get to WWF in those situations. But this is really kind of like a WWF because it was such a brand name. You still had Hogan, you still had something to move it forward. Whereas WCW was swimming in place there. And because they didn't really have, I mean, they had some stars, but they didn't know what to do with them. This is how you run a promotion into the ground. So within the last 7 to 10 days, AEW had this situation where, well, actually, pretty much for the last year and a half, where the backstage stuff has become way more important than what's actually happening in the ring. And Tony Khan got all his panties in an uproar, whatever, because USA made a funny joke about him, basing everything on cage match ratings, and then he went off into this thing about Hook has this record and Jinder Mahal shouldn't be getting a title shot, and it was just this whole big mess, including with Eric Bischoff and all of these people, and Jinder Mahal who had the best reply, and was like, "Who the fuck is Hook?" Like, I mean, honestly, like it didn't make any sense that he Tony Khan, the CEO, Booker, whatever this is for AEW, took a kayfabe 28 and I mean a work 28-1 record to try to put Hook over in a match with Samoa Joe, and it didn't make any sense. And again, for the last whatever since what all brawl out, the most important, impactful things that are happening in AEW are happening backstage. The in-ring product is secondary, which is what was happening to WCW and a little bit with WWF at the time. Like, do you see where I'm going with this, especially for WCW at this point?
I mean, like we didn't have the insight into any of that. Like we have to read about historical accounts of all this nonsense. But
Right.
yeah, I mean, like this situation is ridiculous. It's like you know you're citing all these records, but it's a work, dude. Like there's that's
Yeah.
not the argument that
It's
you ought
not
to be.
real.
But by the same token, like the stupidity of it probably drew more attention to both of those matches that no one really cared about.
Right.
The Jinder Mahal match is with Seth Rollins, I guess, and with Hook and Samoa Joe. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's like the product in AEW is just so like it's just matches, and
Mhm.
90% of the time you know what's happening, and the presentation is not great, and I mean I can only listen and read about it anymore. I can't sit there and watch it
It's very difficult to watch anymore because, again, it feels like we're repeating Cornette stuff here. There are no stars. Like, there's nobody that's like, and especially with MJF out, there's really no stars. I mean,
anymore.
Samoa Joe is a star, if you like Samoa Joe. You know what I mean? Like, it's just it's so weird that 25, well, from here 30 some odd years later, we're seeing kind of the same thing, whereas the in-ring product is not great, but it's not the worst thing. But
Yeah.
the things that are happening behind the scenes are way more interesting than what's happening on the television. And this is how you ruin a promotion. It's the same thing that winds up happening when we get to Nitro era before Vince buys it. Like, all of this things going on with Russo and who's going to buy the promotion and Hogan not wanting to do a job, and like all of that stuff became way more important. That was what was happening in the ring, and that's how you kill a promotion. And I'm not saying Tony Khan is killing AEW, but he ain't helping it. And nobody learns from history, I think. It's just the problem here. And especially with wrestling, because I think it's so cyclical. And you have this opportunity to be this alternate promotion to the WWEF, and you're just blowing it because
I mean,
you wanted,
it of anyone even remotely affiliated with this podcast, you and I have watched by far more AEW than anybody
you know,
else.
that's right. Correct.
I have by far given them more money than anyone else on this podcast, and and
Yes.
I am 100% out at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's a rough sled, man. At this point, like, I'm a DVR watcher. I'm like, well, I heard that wasn't as terrible as anything else, so I'll go to that part, and then I can't watch any of the rest of it.
mm-mm.
You know what I mean?
like
Like, it's just
if you like so it sounds again like Daniel Garcia is the project. So if you want to see Daniel Garcia's rise to fame and
yeah.
watch him go over everyone he like comes within 10 feet of,
Yeah.
you should watch the
Yeah.
shit out of AEW for about the
Yeah.
next 6 weeks, and then
Mm.
somebody else will be have a rocket strapped to him. So
Yeah.
or he'll get
Yeah.
hurt,
Or Orange Cassidy.
or he'll get
Yeah.
hurt and somebody else will get a
Yeah.
rocket strapped to him.
Yeah. It just, and well, again, we could do 12 hours on this, to be honest with you, but I want to tie that all together, as we move forward with this.
You're really trying
Because
to not watch these pay-per-views, aren't
yeah, I am. Because, oh yeah, we'll get to that in a minute too. Because this is what's happening in WCW and WWF right now. Flair is out, y'all. He's gone. There's a contract dispute, arguments with Jim Herd, whether it be what Spartacus
you?
cut his hair, put on an earring or whatever. All these really bad ideas. And Flair was on the booking committee. He quits the booking committee. He's just like, look, I'm here. And then eventually, he's like, I've had enough. And he's gonna job him out at the end. And he has the big gold belt. Supposed to pay that $25,000 deposit to have the belt. WCW didn't want to pay it to him, and so he leaves with the belt and soon to appear on WWF television with that belt before they digitize it out. Now, again, hello, kids. Like, this was a big deal. This is
Yeah.
summer of whatever. Like, I remember seeing that. What was that ridiculous show they had? Like,
Was it
Bobby Heenan
the Saturday
came
show
out
or
with the
whatever?
belt. Yeah, it was something like
Or
that. Like,
was
they
it
had like
like the
a like
Monday talk show, the variety show?
yeah,
This-
yeah, something like that. And and Heenan comes out with the belt, and he's like, I'm gonna bring out the real world champion. Like, I remember that crap,
yeah,
and I'm like,
yeah.
yo, that's
What is
crazy.
happening? Yeah.
Like, how does this work? So, so there was that, and then in WWF, which we weren't watching for sure, Ultimate Warrior is going to wind up being out here soon too. He tries to hold up Vince for more money. Before SummerSlam, he wants, I think it's like a $500,000. Like money he felt that he had earned from the previous pay-per-view. And Vince's motto is get the match in the ring. And so he's like, yo, okay, we'll take care of that, as soon as this is over. And as soon as he walks through the
Mm.
curtain, he fires him. Well,
Did
I
you
think
see
it's
the
an
story
indefinite
that
suspension.
Did you see the story that Hogan and Slaughter allegedly offered to take care of it? Like they
No, but
yeah, there was a threat of violence. It's unclear if that's a Hogan story or what, but yeah.
yeah. Any Hogan story would probably be a Hogan story at this point with what we
Yeah.
know. But yeah, so he gets suspended indefinitely and he's out for a while. Then there's all the lawsuits that's going back and forth, and then I think he winds up coming back for a little bit there. And then he fails a drug test for after Vince's shenanigans with the government and his steroids. I think the drug test, and then he fails the drug test, and then that was it. And then he's out of there for until I think early in the Monday Night Wars, and he winds up on WCW. Then he does all
Mhm.
the form, and then he dies the next day. So I
He
mean, it's
he
like
has he
it's
goes
like
to
this.
WCW, Hogan gets his win back, then he
Yes.
goes gets the Hall of Fame and dies.
Hmm. I mean, a full circle
Oh,
moment.
and there's racist nonsense, racist,
Yeah.
misogynist,
So
homophobic nonsense.
homophobic. Yes,
Uh,
exactly.
yeah,
Under the
MAGA-esque,
guise of Christianity.
MAGA-esque
Yeah.
inspirational speeches. Yeah. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck the warrior too. Um, but yeah, so that's where we are. So this backstage stuff, way more important, maybe more so in WCW than in WWF, but definitely probably a little bit more than what these two pay-per-views are known for. Flair not being there and then Warrior getting shit canned is probably
mhm.
more so important than actually what happens in the ring, because the matches not great, y'all. But we're gonna take a couple more detours, y'all. But I'm getting there. We're gonna get to those matches. So I added a new feature for this. So it keeps coming up in the dark matches before the pay-per-view. It's like, oh, okay, who's on the dark match? And Coco Beware is a
The dark
Goldberg like
match.
streak. Yeah. Yeah. Coco's got a Goldberg like streak going in the dark matches here. So in WWF, Coco Beware defeats Kato, so black guy over the Asian guy. And now WCW Junkyard Dog wrestles and defeats Black Bart. Kind of funny, Black Bart also
Well,
uh in the dark match. But yes,
technically, Kato is, I believe, Croatian and pretending to be
is
Asian.
he
Well,
shut the
Croatia's
front door?
in. It's Paul Diamond
Uh, is that who
unmasked.
that
Yeah,
is?
yeah.
Oh my god, that's awful. That's awful. Uh, yeah, I'm gonna say that again. That's fucking awful. All right, so yeah, so we're gonna add this feature to this because as you go through it and looking ahead and some of this, like, oh damn, that dude was on the freaking dark match or whatever. That's a pretty good wrestler. Why the hell is he not on the actual show? Coco's been on dark matches almost. I don't think we've seen him in maybe except for what the Survivor Series. No, not Survivor
Well,
Series.
if
The one
he's
where
on, he loses the opening
yeah, the
match.
Royal
Like
Rumble maybe he was
it's
in.
either lose the opening match or win the dark match. Those are the two options for Coco Beware.
Yeah, for
Because
Coco.
he's
Damn
over, the
bird.
crowd loves him,
Yeah,
but then he gets the shit kicked out of him. So,
the shit. And then Junkyard Dog is running after String here.
yeah.
Fat, overweight, uh, probably a little coked up. Probably a lot coked up. Can't work, can't talk, can't. I mean, he's just like done at this point in time. And
Ham
he's
bone, headbutt, blow up. That's his
yeah,
move.
exactly. So, all right, just text me that he's not coming on. So we're gonna have to do this conversation between the two of you. Not that you can't handle this conversation, but just to let you know. All right. So who was the most over black wrestler at this time?
Why did you put a game on there?
So okay, so this is 1991, summer '91. We're a little bit before Ron Simmons becomes the first black world
Yeah.
champion. We're well before Rock, Nation of Dominations, any of that. We're way before any of that. So the wrestlers, the black wrestlers at this particular time, generally have a racist as gimmick, kinda.
to to say it to say it lightly, yes. You have a manservant,
Yes, yeah.
someone
Yeah,
shucking
I'm being
jiving with a
kind. Yes,
bird, somebody from the
yeah, or
darkness of Uganda. Yeah.
yes, and one man gang. All right, so
What the
so, but seriously, who's the most over black wrestler in 1991? Like, I didn't put Tony Atlas up here because I don't even think he's freaking. But not Papa Shango. Who the hell was he? Uh, on the last pay per
Saba
view,
Simba. Saba
Saba
Simba.
Simba. Butch Reed is missing in action at this particular time. He's not here
Mm,
or in the WWF. So who's the most over black wrestler? It may be Coco. To be fair, it's either Coco or Virgil.
yeah, I mean, sadly, Virgil is over with the crowd, but I think it's primarily just because they hate DiBiase so much. So I don't know that I can
Mm-hmm.
give him like it, over in terms of like I don't know. I mean, you're not wrong, but like I don't know what Kamala was doing at this time, but I would be more hyped for a Kamala match about out of any of these
Mm,
people.
right. At this time.
Was
Yeah.
yeah, was Abdullah the Butcher somewhere in
Yeah.
Japan maybe?
Maybe.
But
Yeah. I mean,
they're all I mean they're all gimmicks. I mean the despite this Olivia Newton-John headband that somebody convinced Ron Simmons to put on, like he's starting to get good and being
yes.
pushed and good,
Yeah.
and so like he's clearly on like the most successful, but in terms of like fan reaction, I mean you might be right. Coco, that's sad. That's terrible to
Coco
say.
might be the most over dude. I
That's
think he's
sad to say.
probably even though he's jerking the curtain, he may be more over than Virgil. And like I said, yeah, Ron Simmons. I mean, again, it's going to be a big deal when he becomes world champ. I'm not disputing that. Again, Junkyard Dog coked out completely, like
Yeah.
not worth it. Kamala's Kamala. He's a bad guy, so he's not going to be over. But it's a real bad state here. And looking ahead is the reason that I put this up. It gets worse. Like the WWF, I mean, they've always been bad. Wrestling in a general sense has always been bad with handling black wrestlers, but it gets worse,
Yeah.
which is kind of hard to imagine if you look at the folks that are on this, if you're watching YouTube right now.
Well, I mean, like, so
Not great.
NWA was always like you could have a black sidekick that might eventually
Mm-hmm.
turn on you and would get a run before you before they put you over. That's
Right.
Pez Watley. We're looking at you. Iceman King
Mm-hmm.
Parsons. We're looking at you. Um, but then like they use. I would like to say they use Doom pretty well, except we saw that tag team tournament where they put everybody over.
Yes, correct.
Um, yeah, it's not
Yeah,
great.
it's not great. So I don't know. All right.
And even like putting the belt on Ron Simmons, I mean, there's some tokenism in that too. Like it's not
Yeah.
like that ushered in the grand era of diversity in
Yes.
the NWA and everything was
Well,
different thereafter.
and what we know now is that's freaking God, who's the UWF dude?
Jim
Um,
Ross or no, Bill
no,
Watts.
Bill Watts, like once he just loves like big black wrestlers. He
The
made big
former
black
football
wrestlers,
players.
yeah, former football players that he's going to make like like he man, you talk about chasing that crack high. He had Junkyard Dog that one time, and he made him this huge star, and he chased that crack high
Yeah.
forever, trying to find it again. And again, Ron Simmons, to be fair, WCW Ron Simmons, not nearly as good or entertaining as WWF Ron Simmons. Not even close. Like
She.
yeah, exactly. He became a better wrestler. He became a better promo. Like to be fair, because I think he has a natural tendency to be like a tough guy, bad guy, and trying to
Yeah.
make him babyface. It didn't make any sense.
They
So
ironically they put him out as a white meat baby face.
yeah, there's some irony there. Yes, yeah, Mister, I'm unfuckwithable. Yeah,
Yeah.
he should have been a bad guy from the beginning. All
Did
right.
you know he played for Bobby Bowden?
Yeah. Did you know he was third place in the Heisman voting?
Thank you, Jim Ross. Jim
Ah,
Ross felt like,
shit.
God, finally get to talk about college football. Fuck, I hate wrestling.
It's like, oh my god. All right. Let's. I don't even think we're. All right. So we're to the pay per
Oh,
view, y'all. Finally, God, we wasted 25 minutes to
most
get here.
mystifying. This scaffold match was the most mystifying thing I've ever seen. And when it was over, I was like,
It's
did they just stop? Did they? I had to like rewind it and be like,
yeah.
is it over now?
Uh,
What's happening?
oh my god. So we're gonna do the dueling pay per views like we did with the last one, y'all. So you can follow along. We'll go match for match. WCW goes much longer than WWF this time, so they are the longer pay per view in terms of that. So match one on the Great American Bash 1921. Terrence Taylor and stunning Steve Austin. Yes, that's Steve Austin, y'all. Versus Bobby Eaton, RIP, and PM News, RIP,
For some reason, PM
out in a
News.
scaffold match. Uh, uh, in a scaffold match where, again, I listened to Jim Ross's podcast where he recapped this pay per view. We don't know what we were doing with PM News. We thought he was hip to have a fat white guy be the hip hop dude. He's like, it makes no sense. And then two, they were like, the wrestlers were like, yeah, we're not doing that scaffold match. Nope, not doing it. Sorry, y'all better figure something else out. So they climb up to the top, and it's a capture the flag
It's like
match.
2 feet wide. Like
Yeah, it's bad. And again, it's
this picture of like him just laying on somebody. That was the match. I was like, what in the world is happening right now?
a capture the flag where you had to catch the other team's flag and walk it to the other side. Again, look who's in this. Steve Austin. No matter what you think about Terry Taylor, Bobby Eaton, man, like come on. And then PM
Uh,
News, but just awful. SummerSlam gave us the Dragon. Ricky Steamboat is back in WWF. Not for long, though. He's going to be back in
no.
WCW fairly quickly here. The British Bulldog, RIP, and the Texas Tornado, RIP, versus the Warlord and Power, RIP, Hercules Hernandez, and Glory. The first thing I thought about this match, I was like, well, I know who's getting pinned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and they gimmicked up the dragon.
yes, yeah. God.
And they've
He's
gimmicked
still,
up the bulldog by now. Was
yeah, was it Matilda? Or no,
he's got the
yeah. He's
dreadlocks.
got the dreads now.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got the dreads. It's bad. It's not a great match as an opener. I mean, all the people are over. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I mean, when it started, I was like, "Oh, this is good," and then I was like,
Hmm
what's happening right now?"
I'm like, okay, so Steamboat's gonna sail and Roman's getting pinned, and that's exactly what happened. And
Yeah,
that was the match. Like, that was pretty much it, y'all.
yeah.
All right, let's jump ahead. The Great American Bash, match number 2. It's the Diamond Stud, who is Scott Hall, RIP, versus Tom Zink, who is RIP as well.
Oh, for real?
Uh, yeah, I think we determined that Tom Zink is no longer with us. Um, versus Bret Hart, and versus
Yeah.
Kurt Hennig for the Intercontinental title. And this is Bret Hart going over and winning the Intercontinental title from Kurt Hennig. In a really good match, by the way. If there was a watch along tonight, which there isn't, this would have been the watch along match. Bret Hart's parents are there, so you know, kind of given to you that who was going to win that. Kurt Hennig does all this Kurt Hennig things in terms of his selling and whatnot, but winds up tapping out, you know, to the sharpshooter. And you know, Bret Hart becomes, you know, gets his first singles championship. The Diamond Stud match in Tom Zink was just a fucking match of two. I mean, God, it's Scott Hall of Famer,
The
Tom
thing
Zink.
you have to say though is, remember when Scott Hall was the smaller of the two and the outsiders?
Yeah.
I, I, I wish
He's
that
yeah.
Oz could be out here next to him, because I swear to God he's bigger than
Oh yeah, Scott Hall is completely jacked in
you.
this.
He is
Yes,
gigantic.
he's huge.
Oh
Big
my
Scott
God.
Hall, I believe, was the name we used to have in the
God,
AWA. Yeah, monster
he is
size dude.
gigantic. Like his
Yeah.
chest is like huge. He's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's insane. And again, he's out here in match number 2 wrestling against Tom Zink, who they try
Yeah.
to push as a babyface, and it just doesn't work. You know, Diamond Stud wins again.
How do you
DDP out
feel
on the
about
outside.
DDP at this point?
He's annoying as hell,
He's annoying
and
as fuck.
yes, he's annoying as hell.
Good
And
God.
again, yeah, but also, God, I was like, again, you heard the story. He starts late in life or
Mm.
whatever. I was like, God damn, this nigga look like he's 50 already. And
Well,
we
didn't
still
he was he
5
was
years from
didn't he
Nitro.
started wrestling in AWA and got hurt, and then he managed for a while, and then apparently
Is that
got
what it
over it.
was?
Yeah, I think he
Oh,
hurt his
okay.
knee or something, and then got
Yeah. I
so
mean,
whatever.
I know the Diamond Cutter was over, but I was not a huge fan of his ever.
Well, the
Uh,
thing was, like, he was somebody who orchestrated his matches. So they were typically pretty decent, but he was, I think, probably because he had the relationship with those guys and Bischoff in particular, he was like the only non-member of the NWO that got over in the entirety of the
yeah,
1990s Raw.
yeah,
So from that perspective, I always like that. I mean, I think he was good for a good match. I think he tamed his, like this. He's so over the top here. He kind of tamed that down and became a decent promo. I liked him. I don't
yeah.
know, like they when he became the stalker for the Undertaker's wife, that was just like,
No,
that was
yeah.
just another example of, let's find creative ways to bury anybody who ever was over in
Yes.
any possible
Yeah.
way. No, I liked him. I liked him fine.
He did give us Kimberly
Yep.
Page.
Yep.
It's a side brother topic. So there's like 2 movies that if they're on cable TV, I'll stop and wait for a nude scene.
40-year-old virgin.
40-year-old version is one, and Monsters Balls the other one. I'm like, oh, well, can you make me feel good? Oh, was it over? Okay, we're bet. All right,
What
time to
about
turn the station.
Swordfish?
Oh yeah, that's fair, but that's never really on. But
That's
freaking
true.
Monsters Balls on IFC forever.
I think cable has made a deal. Like, we all, can we just act like this movie never happened?
Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
it
fucking
will never
awful
show
movie
anymore.
too. All right,
But for the
but
SummerSlam match, yeah, it was. I mean, this apparently, what, Hennig is hurt. Like, this is the back. He's already has the back injury that he's gonna collect
yeah,
on his insurance policy until he can make
yes,
more money to go back to wrestling. Um,
yeah, he's
his selling, like, it's crazy because in
amazing.
so many ways he was like just put over as dominant, but the real strength is his selling, and
Yes,
he bumps like a
he
goddamn Super
bumps.
Bowl.
Yep, he's amazing at the bumping part. His
His
psychology is
pants
incredible.
ripped apart, his pants are falling
Yeah,
off.
exactly. Yeah, you know, R.I.P. too. But he's so freaking good. And yes, he's about to take off and become Flair's manager. You know, they
Hmm.
paired him with Heenan at first, and then he winds up becoming Flair's second there, which makes no sense either because Flair didn't need anybody out there with him. But that's a whole nother story. All right. So this came up on the internet the other day as we take another side topic here. Hold on, let me create a marker. All right. So this came up the other day. Somebody was like, who is the greatest mid card wrestler in wrestling history? And so this was trending on Twitter or whatever. And, you know, people kept putting Scott Hall in here as a mid carder. And I fought back against this because I don't view Razor Ramon at his peak. to Scott Hall at his peak, pre drug interventions or whatever, Scott Hall's not a mid Carter, nor was Razor Ramon. Now, was he at the top of the card? Was he headlining WrestleMania or anything like that? No.
Well, if you're
But
not
he,
at the top of the card, what are you? I mean,
but
no, he's not a jobber, but he's
okay,
never won a world title in any of the
no,
promotions.
no. Well, besides tag, but yes, but he's not. I always consider a mid card, if we want to use wrestling priorities, as threes and below, and he's not a three. He's a four, four and a half, and even though he's not main eventing if it's a singles match, he's still at the top of the card. Like
Did
he's
he
not.
did he ever
I mean, if he's
hold the
opening,
Intercontinental title?
he did, yeah, because he winds up losing it to freaking either the Brett or the Shawn Michaels. So, like, I don't, I can't call him a mid Carter. Like, it just doesn't. There's something in between the Flair, Hogan's, or whatever, and like those dudes that are right underneath. Like in
So
that
that's like
era, like yeah,
that's kind of the threshold of like Triple H, who was the guy who wrestled the stars.
yeah.
Except
But he was in,
and probably
he was in the,
because he was banging the boss's wife, he actually
well, that's
has
fair.
the title runs to go against it. So, I
Yeah,
mean, from that perspective, if you want to create another threshold, then he's the guy who wrestled the stars and got
yeah,
matches out of stars who might not have otherwise got them. And
and
you
that's
can
definitely
almost put
Scott Hall.
Kurt Hennig in that category as well, who he had the AWA championship, but then after that, like he was capped at the Intercontinental title, US title. He was the guy who
Mm,
made the stars look good.
yeah,
So
Th- th-
if you want to create that category, then that's fine. But if you technically if you're going to draw the line between top of the card and jobber, he's a
mm,
mid carder.
everybody see that doesn't work for me, brother. Like Brutus
So
Beefcake is a mid Carter.
j-
Brutus Beefcake is a
yeah,
mid Carter. Beefcake is below what Scott
yeah.
Hall would be.
Well,
So
but
like
then we have
how?
the what our other category is like the Sunday Night Titans, right?
Yeah,
The the
the
the Scott
superheroes.
the Scott Norton and of the
Hmm.
worlds that they only
But see
win on
those dudes.
Sunday.
But see those dudes are. I mean, even Scott Norton is below a mid Carter. You know,
Yeah.
like where
We'll
are you
have a
putting
handsome Jimmy Valiant.
Buff Bagwell is a mid Carter.
Buff
That's
Bagwell's a mid carder.
yeah, like
Yes.
the dictionary definition of a mid Carter. Whether heel or babyface, he's a mid card dude. Scott Hall is levels above Buff. So I just kind of fought back against that. Like, well, people had the
He,
same argument. Did he main event
he's a
WrestleMania? Was he at the
he's a
top? Like,
he's a
no,
upper
I
mid
understand.
he's an upper mid carder.
Yeah. See, yeah. He needs a different category. I couldn't let that go. Like the people were like saying he was mid card because mid card
Well,
almost sounds like it's almost an insult back in the day.
the other thing
And
too is like I'm sure that given everything we know now, nobody was going to put any significant
yes,
title on him because he was probably incredibly undependable. Other
correct.
than
Yes,
being able to pull off a match once you got there.
yeah.
But
Get the
I
match in
will
the ring.
say the storyline I would pay virtually any money to see pan out was when they had Flair committed to the Saint Asylum, and they turn around Scott Hall's in there. I'm like,
Yeah.
I have to see how this story
Yeah.
plays out, and nothing ever again.
Yeah,
That
nothing else.
was the
Yeah, no.
worst
Yeah.
because he just eventually disappeared because
Yeah.
you didn't actually have to do anything to get paid in WCW, and then they
Yeah.
randomly show him in some Russo-esque bullshit story
Oh
where
my
it's like
god.
those two in the crazy house. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I
Yeah.
I must have this.
Yeah, I need 8 episodes.
What
All right.
streaming platform is this on? I must subscribe now. I will get Apple TV. I don't care.
All right. Let's move on to match number 3 across the board, y'all. It's the Great American Bash. You get our aforementioned Ron Simmons defeating Oz, which is Kevin Nash, whose gimmick we saw debut at the last pay-per-view and pretty much ending already in a clean job to
Yeah.
Ron Simmons. And then SummerSlam, it's the natural disasters, typhoon and earthquake. RIP. I think earthquake is the dead one versus the Bushwhackers and RIP. Brother Butch. Brother Butch. Yeah, Butch is the one that just died recently. So yeah, trash all around trash for both
Yeah.
matches. We get the appearance of Andre the Giant who comes
Oh, that was
down,
so hard to
beat
watch.
all to be down, damn with Kane. It's just, I mean,
It's so hard to
he
watch.
hasn't got that many sunsets left after this particular bit here. So yeah, not,
So
but
Hogan has eaten up another plucky partner and needs
yeah,
to be put in the top of the monster pile for Hogan to chew through. I
yes,
think he may have already chewed through him at this point. The
yeah,
Bushwhackers
it's
are the God bless the money they made, but
yes.
this is not the greatest tag team in the world that defeated the Rock and Roll Express and the Jim Crockett tag team. And look at Oz, I swear, like Scott Hall's bigger than him at this
I
point.
agree at this point. Yes, like muscularly defined, much bigger than he is. Yeah, he might have him on height, but beyond that, yeah. I mean, and again, it'll come up later. Kevin Nash kind of sucks.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
he's a
Absolutely.
great
He's trash.
wrestling personality, but
Now,
wrestling
is
wise,
he like now maybe ish, but he's still a prick. Like trading
yeah,
off his time as a prick where he got over
yeah,
because of his friends and whoever was running the promotion.
yeah.
Fuck him.
I mean, and again, and then if you were tall and you could do a power bomb at this era, you were definitely over. So it's coming up soon, by the way. If you could do those two things, so yeah, just bad. All right, who else we got here? Match 4, y'all. Again,
How
Hush
was
is not here.
this?
Thank God. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, sure. So little dude WWF first SummerSlam. Virgil defeated Ted DiBiase, but not by pinfall. I think it was he knocked him out of the belt, and DiBiase didn't reach the 10 count. So he wins the million
Oh
dollar
no,
belt.
this was the
Wasn't that?
no, it was the he got pinned, but the referee made a decision it was bullshit, and they restarted the match or some shit.
But I think how he officially wins is that he hits him with the $1 million belt, and DiBiase doesn't answer the 10 count. He doesn't get pinned.
Maybe,
Yeah,
but yeah, it was
it,
bullshit.
yeah, it was. Yeah, no, it
Made
was
even
definitely
worse
not.
by Piper's presence at the ring.
Yes, and Virgil's not great wrestler.
Yeah.
Just the boxing and punching, and it was not great. Uh, it's Great American Bash offered Richard Morton versus Robert Gibson, which is kind of funny with the names. So again, thank goodness Hutch isn't here because he'd think I'd have some reaction to this. One, it was 17 minutes long, which is
Way too long.
probably 17 minutes longer than it needed to be. Two, if Ricky's a bad guy, why are they dressed alike? Like they have their tag team shit on. They have their tag team shit on, matching one another. Robert came out in the duster. Ricky didn't. But like, other than having his mullet and a minor ponytail,
Yeah.
they're really just doing the same things.
I
Robert's got
gotta
the
say,
bad
like,
knee.
heel Richard Morton was was actually kind of funny to watch. Like his
Yeah,
like him selling as a heel was like it was entertaining and unique relative to
yeah.
everything we've
I
seen up
mean,
to this point. But like Robert
yeah.
was the storyline was Robert had one leg the entire match. So
Hmm.
he was just like
Yes,
getting beat, like just getting abused and the commentators were running him for being such a prick. And then
yes.
it was never in doubt. Like you knew
Yeah,
exactly.
but shouldn't it have been in doubt? Okay, so Robert Gibson gets hurt while they're tagging, and he has to have the ACL or whatever, and he has to get repaired. This is why Ricky's wind up wrestling singles, and we've watched him. What did he team with? He was a 6-man
Team
champion.
with
He teamed with
team
Tommy
with
Rich.
Thomas Rich.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, well, before he turned bad guy, when he was doing babyface stuff, he was doing that or whatever. And so then, he winds up turning heel. And when
He
Robert
lost to
Gibson is
Danny
coming
Spivey
back,
bad.
yes, and yeah, like a 2-minute job. And it's like, okay, so he's coming back. He's the baby face. I mean, I think he does wind up losing the match because he gets hit with the computer or something like that. But I think the babyface should go over here, yet he doesn't. And I
Well, well, Robert
yeah.
Gibson was on the way out at this point, right?
Yeah, I think he's there not long for this too. Yeah, be queuing up your what's next because it's bad.
Well, well,
All
this
right.
is we get Robert Gibson goes. This is where he goes to OVW, right? Or not
Oh
OVW,
no, we're a
Smoky
little bit
Mountain.
away from there. Yeah, I think we're a little bit away from there, but you might be have it better than I do. I've only focused
Because
on how
he
bad WCW was.
smoke because he goes there and he's solo for a long time before Ricky actually shows up. But yeah, they started
Does it?
Smoky
Okay.
Mountain Wrestling started in October 1991. Because
Okay. So
because
yeah, maybe
Ricky
he's headed there.
and Bobby Eaton were they were still locked up, but by this time,
Mm,
Stan Lane and Cornette I think are gone.
okay. Yeah. Well, this was not the Civil War you would have thought it was for me. I did not care. More than anything, it was like way too long. That was probably
Oh,
yeah. And again,
absolutely.
them dressed alike just was the stupidest shit ever. All right. Match number 5, y'all, across the board. Great American Bash. We got the Young Pistols, R.I.P. Tracy Smothers, and Dustin Rhodes defeated the Fabulous Freebirds and Bad Street, which is another freaking Armstrong brother. Um, and versus the Buck Bossman R.I.P. defeated the Mountie. Nobody can. These are fucking awful. Like,
Rip
okay, Young
Rip
Pistols are
Bad Street,
decent.
by the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about him. Dead. Uh, I mean, the Young Pistols on their own are fine. Dustin on his own is fine. Freebirds are terrible. And this was like and it wasn't just a 6-man tag, it was an elimination tag too,
Yeah.
which was even worse, which made it even longer. And again, shockingly, Dusty's back. His son is the one that
Yeah.
goes over. Shocking. Um,
Yeah, I think I
yeah,
made the comment last time of like Dustin's so good they could have done something with him, but what they should not have done with him is made him a Dusty clone and
yeah,
have Dusty smash him over. Like the thing I realized is like there is not the four horsemen for him to toil against is what
yeah,
he does not have at this point.
yeah.
Um yeah, and
It's,
he's even like his promo, he's essentially funky like a monkey.
yeah,
Um
let's hello kids. Let's play family dynamics. Okay, so your father is the leader of this wrestling promotion, and he's going to put you over big and to make you a particular star. And your general reaction to that is, nah, that's okay. I'm gonna go wind up hooking up with a friggin' somebody that's going to manipulate and pull me in all kinds of different directions that are completely away from my family. Why would that be? Hmm. I wonder if I'm just trying to be my own person. I didn't need all of this particular Valderall to to try to become my own man and you're smothering me pops. Could be a little bit of that.
yeah.
But, yeah. And I heard those stories that Terry Reynolds was with the free Michael Hayes first. Mm,
You mean Doc Hendricks, of
purely.
course, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. No, purely sexy, man. Purely sexy. Yeah, the Boss Man's match was like, oh, if he lost, the Mountie would get arrested, and they had this whole vignettes and backstage thing where he was thrown in the paddy wagon.
Like
This,
I thought the match was like whatever, but then you're just subjected to the Mountie shtick for
yes,
the rest of the show, and the cops like
yeah,
it's just that was bad. It was
yeah,
horrible.
it was bad. Yeah, it's classic WWF Vince not being restrained from his worst devices. There's our Eric Bischoff shot, by the way. All right,
So
next match,
this
y'all.
is the
Great American.
show. I did you have a slide on Eric Bischoff's backstage interview
I
or
don't.
okay?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, if you want to talk about it, that's fine, but I
It's
did
just
not.
I mean, there's not much to say, but yeah, on the heels of like apparently every wrestling promotion ever thought it was great to pick up on this story about the female locker room NFL reporter who was sexually harassed and then dragged through the muck.
Mm,
So
mm.
let's go ahead and mimic that at Missy Hyatt's expense and whoever else, right? So now the capstone of that is Eric Bischoff
Mm,
because I guess fairness gets to go in the women's locker room and interview Missy Hyatt. Walks her in the shower, allegedly, and she
mm.
freaks out, and he's a douche, and that this whole
Yeah.
thing was is cringy as fuck and completely
Yes.
inappropriate. And thank you
Yeah.
1991 for this.
Yeah, and again, like, oh, well, you got to look at it at the time. Do I?
Yeah,
Because they should have known better. It's like the racist black caricature wrestlers. Well, that's just the time. Is it? Because I'm pretty sure that you didn't have to do that. But
yeah.
whatever.
So now I'm
It's
reminded you left Johnny B. Bad off though, who was the most over black
I'm gonna
performer.
beat your ass. Akeem the African Dream is
This
blacker than
more
Johnny B.
probably, yeah.
Bad. Yeah,
That's probably true. Yeah.
yeah. Sorry.
And Johnny B. Bad is horrible too because they're
Okay,
like
yeah. I
he's
mean,
so flamboyant. They just
yes,
no. I know you want to say the other F word, but like this is just
yeah,
like it's
yeah.
awful.
Well, okay. To be fair, he gets better. Like this version is terrible. Like, I mean, it's
Yeah.
terrible because they're leaning so much into the effeminate part of the gimmick, minus the brown face. But it's just bad. But he does get better as we get further, as he gets more experience or
He
whatever.
gets better at being Johnny B. Bad. Is
Yes,
the pinnacle of him, and it turns out
yes,
that's the
exactly.
only thing he was good at, and that's not worth
Mm,
watching.
no, no, not at all. He's wrestling the Yellow Dog, which is Brian Pillman.
What?
Yes, I
What?
know, shocking.
No, that
No, it
that can't
is.
be.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it is. He switched Steeler colors from
Oh, okay.
Bengals. Uh,
Oh, I didn't think about that turn.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um.
this is a Florida gimmick apparently, so I don't know where they came
Yeah.
up with this. But the other thing I
Yeah.
read was like this was Dusty taking steps to make sure nobody got over Dustin. So like you put your other
Mm,
good-looking baby faces in a stupid mask, and this is
oh,
it.
for good God Almighty. Yeah. Yeah. I might hate my father too if he did that to me. Um. See, this match is terrible, and you couldn't even let freaking the Yellow Dog win, so you had to go bullshit DQ or whatever. Terrible. SummerSlam, we have the Legion of Doom, RIP, all of them, or both of them, versus the Nasty Boys for the WWF titles, and they win. The WWF titles become the first ever, and I think maybe the last,
Yeah, I don't think
that have won AWA, the NWA, and the WWF tag team championships because the AWA is going to go out of business. So congrats there or whatever. I mean, it was an okay match for a tag team, for two big teams. Again, this version of the Nasty Boys, what I'm getting a little bit more respect for is because they weren't big fat slobs at this point.
yeah.
They let it go here like not too much long after this, but they've
Well,
had really good matches we've seen with these guys and
well, I
against the
think
Silence.
Jerry Sags, I think was the least fat slobbish of the two, but he also I think retired
Mm,
earlier. So Brian Knobs was stinking up the ring for much longer. But yeah, they
yeah,
weren't as awful, but they were. I mean, they were obviously this was the transitional champs from the Boo Boo Job Face Heart Foundation,
yeah,
to get the belts to the Legion of Doom. And think about how long they've been there and have done very little
yeah,
before they finally get a run here. But yeah, I
yeah.
think that
I'm curious as to how
WWE
they're going to
really
get the
wasn't
belts
worried
off
about
of them. I'm curious how they get the belts off of them because remember that was always the thing. They never
it.
rarely had them in WCW and WA because you couldn't figure out how to get them off. So I'm very curious. They beat them with their finisher, by the way, which was kind of interesting too. So I mean, it wasn't a squash match, but it wasn't super competitive either.
No,
So
no.
yeah. Yeah, just FYI, y'all, but not a bad match. All right, the Great American Bash, y'all. Match 7. Now, talk about who should have jerked the curtain. Big Josh, which is Matt Bourne, RIP, defeated Black Blood, which is Billy Jack Haynes, who was miraculously alive and super MAGA in a lumberjack match. Uh, yeah, and yeah, and the other side of this is terrible too. IRS, which is Mike Rotunda, defeated Greg Valentine.
Yeah.
Two
So
bad
I mean, this
matches.
was at least IRS versus Greg Valentine was obviously just a filler match to cool off the crowd before the main event. I
Yeah,
mean, like
yeah,
that I kind of like. There was it, Greg Valentine is just like
yeah.
oh,
Yeah,
most
he's
boring.
been
He's
old
just a
forever.
staple of yeah. Anyway,
Yeah,
but so that was like that is what it was. But I guess they must have really thought they were gonna do something with Big Josh, and he did not. I'm just
He
saying
didn't
he
have
did
his
not bring
bears.
up the Bears. It was the best part of everything we've seen on WCW up to this point. Nothing compares to them walking out with the whole last bear, and it's like, then the bear's like, "What's up, yo? I'm in a wrestling event." It was the best thing I've ever seen in my life. It's
The
certainly
bear
better
was
than
very
any of
happy.
these matches, but yeah,
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 the bear
no
was definitely
bears.
happy.
Billy Jack
Yeah,
Haynes, who's a name, but like they can't say we have Billy Jack Haynes. He's black blood with a
yeah,
battle axe. Like that's gonna come
yeah.
into the match. Thank you, Turner.
Yeah,
Thank you, Turner
yeah,
Broadcasting. Whatever.
yeah, this is bad. I mean, yeah, it's again, this is not the best that they had to offer
No.
from either promotion at this
Yeah,
point.
and it's not.
Uh,
These guys aren't
it's
necessarily bad, but it's just like what, like
well,
you don't
it's they're not over. Like, why
right.
would you care?
There's
Like,
no
there's
angle to them.
invest.
There's nothing. They're just
Yeah,
like, okay, and
yeah,
now this guy. Like if somebody
yes,
like
they're
Black
just
Blood came out and attacked his bear, and then they
yeah.
had this blow off match, and the bear came out for the save.
Put the bear in the cage
Yeah,
above the
the
ring.
bear and it's just yeah. I mean, like that's money right
Yeah.
there. But just they're having a cold match. Like he didn't do
Oh
anything to the bear.
my god. Speaking of awful, and Akeem the African Dream.
Speaking of things they would not give up on, they for
Phew,
real
they
tried to make
really
Elegante something. His
okay,
like
but to be fair, Vince tried too,
yeah.
and he couldn't do it either.
How did Vince watch any of this and be like, "We got to get that guy. We'll just put him in the slim good body outfit with fur, and it'll be fine." How did anyone see that? The two best things about him are like his selling when he gets hit, and he's just like,
Mm, no.
like
Yeah.
just his, or when he like he'll like take a fake swing at people or like rear back like two for flinching. It's like,
Yeah.
dude, no, it's not. You're not supposed to pull up. It's you're actually
Yeah.
supposed to be fighting them. You shouldn't just like you shouldn't like fake try and punch them. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
This
awful.
match also had midgets at the beginning. I know that's not the proper term.
I
Little
forgot
people.
about that.
Yes, that were biting people on their butts and
Yeah, they
ankles.
were
And I
dressed up
it
like the Faces of Fear or whatever Kevin Sullivan's
yeah, it was
gang is at this
bad.
point. Yeah, it's
And
horrible.
one man gang is one man gang, and but he's like kind of
Not a team
rebranding now that
together.
he's out of yeah. It's just there's nothing good happened in this,
No.
and other the Elegante won by pinfall. Like that's even worse yet.
Yeah.
It's awful. And then we get the SummerSlam main event, y'all. Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior before he's about to get shit canned in 8 to 12 minutes. Defeated a triangle of terror, Slaughter, Adnan, and Colonel Mustafa. You know what this match is. Hogan, Warrior.
the, ta-
Blah.
the tag team the tag team efficiency of Hogan and the Warrior was something to
Yeah.
behold in this match. Just the smooth
Yeah.
tags, just the just the way they work together. I'm surprised they never had a run at the belts.
Yeah, I mean, the less is said, the better, and I think this is Sergeant Slaughter's face turn too after this because essentially the war in Iraq is over, and you can't really drag that gimmick on anymore. Like, I mean, that war
Yeah.
lasted about 48 hours. War lasted only a couple of a fortnight, and I think this is the turn Slaughter back after this. I do believe he gets attacked later on, maybe not the next pay per view or sometime before the next pay per view. He winds up turning babyface, to get back, on the good side of his country. All right, y'all. So those were the matches that were the dual matches. Now we get to WCW because we wrestle here. We got to have more matches than that shit. Match 9, Nikita Koloff defeated Sting in a Russian chain match. He was undefeated, by the way, in Russian chain match. Did you know that? Did you hear about that? Yeah,
I did hear about that, and
yes.
when they played in the national championship, Bobby Bowden said that there's one person we got to make sure doesn't get a hold of the Russian chain. That's
Yeah,
Nikita Koloff.
no, that was Ron Simmons. No,
Russian
this match
chain.
isn't.
These matches are trash, and
Yeah,
they always end up the same way. It's
yeah.
always like everyone's gonna end up tied 3-3, and
In the
who's gonna get
corner.
the fourth one? And in
Yeah,
this case, it was Sting knocked Nikita in and lost his match. is trash. These
Yeah,
Russian chain matches are
and again,
stupid.
I don't know how much Nikita's going to be with us after this either, and good because this version of Nikita is not very good. And again, he probably
But
wasn't very good. Like if we went back and looked at that, we'd probably be like, outside of Russian sickles against jobbers, we'd probably be like, man, his work not so
But
great.
we
And
distinctly remember skinny Nikita Koloff with hair wrestling, though, right?
yes,
Do you not?
so
Yeah. So
yeah,
we've apparently
I
watched
do.
something else after this. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, because he came out and he was against drugs, but maybe that's coming up.
No, he
Because I
gave
mean,
an
he's
anti-drug
still,
promo. Well, no, I watched the Clash of the Champions. It's not one that we watched. He gave an
yeah,
inspirational promo at something already.
okay. All right, yeah, because that wasn't there something happened? Did his wife get cancer or something like that, which is
Yeah.
why he winds up
Yeah.
stepping away and then never essentially coming back, maybe except for some indies. Sting is on the same rise here. When we get to the main event, you kind of got to wonder why they didn't put the belt on him because he had already held it. It would have made more sense. I mean, again, Luger is Luger. I understand that. But then when you look at the end of the match, then what was the point of
Yeah.
putting the belt on Luger? It didn't make any sense. So arachnoid. All right, y'all. Match 10. This is the main event, but it's not really because there's another match after. It's Lex Luger versus Barry Windham for the new world championship because they had to go get this belt from Florida and
Look at this
put
belt.
some shenanigans on it.
This belt looks like you serve a school lunch on it. It's so bad. Like the U.S. title is so much better than this thing that they're fighting for right now. It's ridiculous.
Oh Lord.
Why is it in a
Yeah.
cage?
Yeah, well, because they had advertised the cage match. That's what Jim Ross told me. We advertised the cage match, so it has to be in a cage for the championship
Yeah, well,
between
you
two
also
people.
advertise Ric Flair, and the crowd reminds them at
Yeah.
the very beginning that they,
Yes.
in fact,
Yes.
want
We
Flair.
want Rick. Yes. Yeah. I get the match in the ring. Like, do whatever you got to do to get Flair to drop that and get the match in the ring. You can't because it. Well, we've said this over time here. Like for whatever reason, Flair did not want to put Luger over. So maybe
Yeah,
that had something to do with it too. That he's like, yeah, I'm still not going to put Luger over, and so that factors into the equation. But there's really no reason for Luger to take this second-handed championship like this. Like I'm surprised he
and
didn't. Refuse it. Honestly, like
and
I'm
in a,
good.
and
Like
they
put it on somebody
and he
else.
doesn't even, in a way, he doesn't even go over strong because he
Like
has to turn heel
yeah.
under the influence of Harley Race to win the title with his
Yeah.
pile driver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and for what reason? I mean, again, I'm sure they're going to explain some of this afterwards. And I do remember him being managed by Harley Race for a little bit, but I mean, I, I mean
Yeah,
that's basically it. And this match is essentially that too. It's not great. It's, I mean, again, I've seen Luger and Wyndham have better matches than this one. Wyndham has a little bit of boo boo job face because I'm sure it was like all thrown together like that, and it is what
but
it is.
yeah, at this point, the Horsemen have evaporated. There's no reason for
Yeah,
him to be there anymore.
correct.
Like,
Yeah, and his family flights of fancy, who loves to leave promotions. I won't be surprised if he's out of here if he's not even on the next pay per view.
yeah,
So I mean, we'll get to that in a moment. But yes, Luger wins his first world championship, the first of many. To be honest, he's going to win it a few times in WCW, not the WWF title. That's a whole nother conversation. And good for Luger, like I mean, he wins the belt. We've watched these matches over the last couple of years here. His work is much better than we remembered it. His promos are weird. His legs still don't go the right direction when he falls, but finally he's
they
the
do
world
not.
champion.
They do not. Yeah,
Finally
I
he's the
mean,
world champion, man.
there are some people that have reaffirmed our hate. Some in watching these, there's some people who have reaffirmed our hatred for them. There's some
Mm-hmm.
people who have questioned why we ever liked them in the first place. there are some people like Lex Luger who were like, I think we messed up. Sorry, Mr.
Yeah, I
Luger,
think we
Mr.
messed up.
Full.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and he could have, and again, but knowing what we know from the documentary or whatever, kind of a weird dude. He's not the dude to lead a company at this particular time
Hmm.
either. He's just, kind of I think what they said, he's aloof. So that wasn't going to work either, brother. And,
Yep.
again, he's not long for here either. He's soon about to be gonna have what his car accident or whatever, or his motorcycle accident, and get his body completely all messed up, and he's gonna heal and then head straight to the WWF, for the World Bodybuilding Federation Championship
Yeah.
Internationals or whatever, and before he becomes a wrestler in the WWE. So I mean, that's a whole different podcast, and that whole him not winning the championship and what leads him back to end on the Nitro on that first night. We'll catch it down the road. I said it wasn't the last match though, y'all, because there was one more. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll appreciate. All right, I couldn't
It looks
find no
like
pictures of the match,
that
so
looks
we're
like
gonna
an
go with
AI
this.
picture of her.
Maybe it is, but it could just be old.
Yeah.
I don't
Or
know.
it looks maybe like from the era where she was trying to look like she might have. It looks weird.
Well, okay, so I mean, and think you know this or whatever. A lot of times on my lunch break, I'll be prepping for the show or whatever. I did not look this up on my work computer. Um,
No. You can't
so
you
just
cannot
FYI.
Google Missy Hyatt at work. Do not
Yeah,
do
yeah,
that.
my yeah. So on my home computer, when I looked up Missy Hyatt or whatever, I think there is some information up there about her that if it was this era would be of the only fan variety,
Mm.
but I've never seen it, and I certainly wouldn't want to see it now. So I just didn't click them links. But there was a match. Rick Steiner defeated, and Missy Hyatt defeated Paulie Dangerously
Well,
and Arn Anderson.
it was supposed to be the Steiners versus Arn and Barry. Barry got pulled out
Yes.
and Scott got hurt. Then it
Hmm.
became this gimmick match, but Dick Slater and Dick Murdoch came and snagged Missy before the match. So
Mm,
it wasn't even it was a handicap them match, but I think what Rick pinned Paulie
yeah.
2 minutes into it. I guess to send the fans home happy, but I think they
Yeah.
probably
But
all left confused.
Jim Ross said that Maryland does not allow intergender matches. They
Oh,
didn't know that before they got there.
okay.
Oops. Yeah, the stuff behind the scenes way more important than what's happening in the ring. And that's where we are. And that's it, y'all. We have had two dual versus dual podcasts about this wrestling that is awful. There's, again, one match on here, one that was like, you know what? That's a really good match. Again, between two Hall of Famers, Kurt Hennig and Bret Hart. Even though there's Hall of Famers up and down the freaking card,
Yeah.
and you can only get one freaking match that was actually decent and good. Everybody's down bad here.
Yeah.
But the bottom is the bottom. It gets worse. So we always allow Brother Beavis to pull up the next card. So he's going to wind up pulling up. Go ahead and pull up. So if we're not in Fall Brawl era,
It's
I don't
Halloween
think.
Havoc and
Halloween
Survivor
Havoc.
Series are the
Yep. All right.
so
Give me that Halloween Havoc card.
Survivor Series always sucks, so I just want to
Yes.
start with that. It's just
Understood.
Survivor Series sucks. So
Yeah.
why does this doesn't even make sense?
See?
Ric Flair, the Mountie, Ted DiBiase, and the Warlord versus Roddy Piper, Bret Hart, Virgil, and the British Bulldog.
Yeah. Super random, right? Yeah.
Is
Super random. I know who's getting jobbed out first, though.
yeah.
I know who's getting pinned first.
It, and this is another one where I guess they have eliminations, and then is there a final one, final Survivor match?
That was, I think, the last one that we did is that they did bring them all back together. Yeah, the winners of each one. All right, next group,
Uh,
the Yoga Yahooies.
Colonel Mustafa,
Mm,
the Berserker, which is Nord the Barbarian,
yeah,
Skinner, which is Steve Kern,
Play some Skinner, man.
Her- and Hercules with General Adnan and Mr. Fuji versus El Matador,
It's Tito Santana's new
Tito
gimmick.
Santana, sadly,
Yep.
the Texas Tornado, which is Kerry Von
Awful.
Erich's gimmick, Jim Duggan, and Sergeant Slaughter.
Mm.
So this, yeah, Sarge is a
Yeah.
baby
So
face
there's the
again.
start. Yeah. They turned.
And
All right.
then the I guess main event in the middle of the card is Hulk Hogan versus The Undertaker.
That's interesting. That's
Uh,
I know who won.
Spoiler alert: The Undertaker was undefeated at WrestleMania, but did he win here? No.
No.
The Nasty Boys
Ooh,
and the Beverly Brothers,
who the hell is that?
Wayne Bloom and
Ugh,
Mike Enos,
ugh,
with Jimmy Hart and the Genius versus the Rockers
yeah.
and the Bushwhackers.
We're about to get a heel turn from Shawn Michaels here in the next
And
6 to 9 months.
and then I
Yeah.
guess so. This was. I don't think they did the elimination thing this time. And the
Okay.
last one, for whatever reason, is just 3-on-3. Erwin R. Shyster and the Natural Disasters versus the Big Boss Man and the Legion of Doom.
That's gonna awful.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
SummerSlam's always awful.
The
So,
Survivor Series.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
Survivor Series. Yeah.
Yeah. Those matches are terrible. Yeah. It's awful.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
Multi-man tag matches generally are bad.
all right.
WCW is gonna save us though, man.
Halloween Havoc.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this looks good. In a Chamber of Horrors match,
Yep.
Sting, Elegante, and the Steiner brothers versus Abdullah the Butcher, the Diamond Stud, Cactus Jack, and Big Van Vader.
That's all over the place. Okay.
Big Josh and PN News
Is the
defeated
bear there?
defeated the creatures, creature number 1 and creature number 2. The
No comment.
internet's only telling me creature 1 is Jumping Joey Maggs, who I don't.
Mm, mm,
Anyway, Bobby Eaton versus Terrence Taylor with Alexander York.
mm.
Johnny B. Bad with Teddy Long versus Jimmy Garvin with Michael Hayes.
Oh
Oh,
wait,
here.
okay. So who's the baby face there? I can't remember then because Johnny B. Bad had tradition. I wonder if they
Well,
turned him baby face.
where is this? It's in
Mm,
Tennessee, so you could
mm.
get the Freebirds as baby faces in Tennessee.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, then our main event. The main event, at least for us, Steve Austin with Lady Blossom
Yes.
versus Dustin Rhodes.
Yeah. I mean, if we're gonna do a watch along, it'll probably be that one. I mean, it might just be for Lady Blossom, but that's a different podcast too.
Bill Kazmaier versus Oz. Van Hammer versus
Oh, that's right.
Doug Summers. Richard Morton with
Mm,
Alexander York versus Brian Pillman, apparently no longer the Yellow Dog.
mm.
The
That could
Halloween
that
Phantom.
should be a good match, by the way. Pillman and
Yeah,
Morton should be good.
it's 12 minutes and 45 seconds. So,
Still too long.
yeah. The Halloween Phantom, which is Rick Rude
Oh yeah, we're at that
versus
time.
Tom Zink. So, this
Dang,
must be
still
his.
pushing Tom Zink.
It's a 1 minute 27 match. I'm assuming this
So
is
I'm asking,
like
he
short.
reveals
Yeah.
himself. Yeah, because
Oh,
this
it is.
is like because Sting is about to get the belt back because
Yeah.
Rude's about to. The him and Rude have a fairly decent feud.
Yeah. The Enforcers, which is Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko, versus the
Mm.
Patriots, which is Todd Champion and Firebreaker Chip. That's match 10.
Yeah, I
Halloween
was gonna
Havoc
say we're
1990.
getting up into double digits of matches here for WCW.
And in
Yeah,
a 2 out of 3 falls match for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship,
of course.
Lex Luger versus Ron Simmons.
Mm. Wait, this ain't when Ron Simmons wins the belt, is it? No,
I
Ron Simmons
mean,
defeats
I
Vader.
mean, I don't want
You
to
know, he
spoil it
beats
for
Vader.
you.
Yeah. No, because he did. No, Ron Simmons beats Vader for the belt. So, yes, it's one of
Does
those.
he?
I'm pretty sure.
Wait,
Maybe I'm wrong.
is there a tournament here too? What is happening?
Hold up. He better have beaten Vader for that belt.
There's some tournament.
Not
There's some
crazy.
tournament bracket on here. I don't know what that is.
Come on.
No, he did not beat Lex Luger for the title on this occasion.
Well, I was about to say because in great moments in Black history would have told me otherwise. I mean, yeah, DeSantis ain't removed all the books yet. So, uh, like, yeah, I was about to say, yeah, but that's, I mean, but again, that also shows the push. It also shows Luger's still a heel. Um, there's no way Ron Simmons is healing against Luger at that point, but yeah, so they're pushing that in the right direction. So, I mean, I think we've discovered that at this point in time, we can do these dual pay-per-views. It's
Yeah.
just none of them
Oh,
are good enough to have their own individual, like, whatever.
so I've
Because
deciphered this. The match between Brian Pillman and Richard Morton is for the inaugural WCW Light Heavyweight Championship.
okay. Well, I think I remember Pillman holding that at some point. I certainly don't remember Richard Morton holding it. So, yeah, bad all around. Good times. So, yeah, so when we come back, we will duel them together again because there is definitely no reason to watch them separately at this point. There's nothing in between those two cars. And I was like, man, that's going to be pretty good. Now, I do think, like I said, Rude and Sting are going to have a fairly decent feud, like once that gets started. But after that, I don't think there's any. I mean, some of the names of the dudes, Todd Champion. How long has been since the new breed, man? That's the
Yeah,
old breed.
yeah, that was a while.
I mean, and they got the worst one.
Yeah,
You didn't
well,
even
the
have
other
the
one
good one.
pretended to be Japanese for a while after that, if I recall correctly.
I can't. All right, y'all. So I think that's a good ending note. I just found out Kato was Hungarian or some shit, and Chris Champion thought he was that should do it. So yeah, we
Todd Champion. This is
Todd
no,
Champion.
this
Yeah.
is different. This Todd Champion is different than Chris Champion.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. That's not a new
Todd
breed, dude.
Champion is not. I don't think Todd Champion is a new breed.
Check it to man. Google. So
The new breed.
yes,
Oh, you
yes.
have to caveat that search. They are not the most. They are not
Oh God,
the most
really?
famous new breed. No,
Jesus. Well, one of them's dead. So
it was.
it was the dude with the funny haircut. Wait, nope. It was the short one
It's
that
happening.
I think
How
is
many?
dead.
It's a different new breed. Oh, here we go. Chris Champion and Sean Royal.
Sean Royal. Chris Champion is dead, correct?
Uh, Chris Champion is dead.
Yes. Sean Royal, I think, is alive. He
Sean
might not be.
Royal is alive.
He might not be. He might not be breathing freedom air, but I do believe that he is alive. So good to know. Mm, mm, mm. All
Yeah.
right. Bad. So we will duel these back together. It makes it actually easier on me to only have to do this once. So and again, if it was something that we were watching that was good, I'd be like, hell, whatever. But it isn't, these aren't
This is
good at
not
all.
it. This is
No.
not it.
So and I did a good job of pushing us further down there to have to not talk about those matches. So we'll be digging through those crates again too, and we'll figure it out. All right. So again,
So
SoundCloud, iTunes. Go
it
ahead.
was Chris Champion.
Car
Uh,
accident,
he was
right?
Yoshi Kwan.
Yoshi Kwan.
He was a cultural appropriator
Mm,
before his untimely death
yeah, the
at the
car
age of
accident, right?
57.
Wait,
Uh,
what?
yeah, multiple strokes.
I thought he
Yeah,
had the car accident. Maybe it was the car accident that ended his wrestling career. Apart, like that's why.
Well,
I don't.
remember one of them had a cybernetic arm that I think was some
Yes, he
sort of.
came out there, but that was after the accident or whatever. I know there's a Cornette New Breed freaking
He does
YouTube.
not speak like he does not speak highly of them.
No, of course not.
They
That
clowned
make
Bubba one time, and he had Bubba get in and kick the shit out of him and steal
Oh,
his
good
car.
to
Yeah,
know. Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna look for that YouTube. All right, so we'll wrap up here. We'll come back with Halloween Havoc '91 and the Survivor Series '91. That'll be my freaking penance as I'm editing this crap tonight. So, but yeah, we'll see you guys on the other side. Say
I should
goodnight,
also
sir.
say I have one more thing to say. I think there
Go ahead.
were what 12 matches on Wrestle
WCW.
War or whatever we just watched. It
Yes.
took me 12 tries to like get through it. Like I would watch it, just like it seemed like it went on forever. I was like, I can't do another match. I
You
can't do
got
another match. I can't do it.
you really gotta watch them. You really gotta watch them almost one at a time, like like freaking an AA patient. Just one match at a time, man. You
That's
just can't. You cannot do it all at once. You can't. You'll be drooling at the end, like your
horrible.
brain will just be mush. So just kind of skip around. That's what you gotta do. So all right, say good night, sir.
All right. See ya.
All right, we'll see you guys back for Halloween Havoc and Survivor Series '91. Peace, everybody.